Let's continue here. The government has asked for more time to consider public sector wage demands, which are made by trade unions ahead of the start of negotiations for this year. The Joint Mandating Committee, which is made up of public sector trade unions organized under COSATU, met with the employer over 2 days of negotiations. Joining me now to talk about this is the Joint Mandating Committee convener, that's Mugwena Maluleke. Mr. Maluleke, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon.
Good afternoon and greetings to your listeners and your viewers at home. Thanks for having us in this.
Let's start here. What has been your response to the request by government for more time to engage the demands made by the unions?
We have agreed because that is the process that we follow in the public service and bargaining chamber, where we will present our demands, and then the employer would then come back with an offer that needs to be engaged. So for the past 4 weeks, we have been engaging in clarifying exactly how we arrive at those particular demands, and therefore the employer had then requested that they must go and formulate their offer in response to our demands. We believe that that is the right thing to do, rather than for them to be coming to the chamber and say, look here, the Minister of Finance has declared that he's freezing the salaries. So it's a good sign of them really coming back and say, let's engage, because we have launched this particular democratic platform in order for us to be able to engage in the interest of our people.
Mr. Maluleke, last month the unions tabled demands included salary increases of CPI plus 4%. Let's zoom in a bit closer to your demands. Talk us through what the rest of your demands are.
Yeah, one of the, of course, the one that you have mentioned is one of those particular demands that we call, in adjustment of the cost of living, where we demanded CPI plus 4%. And the other one clearly is a 2,500 for housing subsidy or housing allowance for public servants, because the government has delayed implementing the government employee housing scheme. But also we have asked for the government to look at the bursaries for the public servants, given the fact that these are the missing middle in terms of tertiary education in our country, and therefore we need to look into those particular issues. But in a way, helping the government, because we are saying, let's go and look at our pension and how we can be able to structure the pension to be able to give bursaries to the public servants together with the government. And the other, clearly, it is the recognition of the fact that we are still seated with a medical aid that is not really covering all our people, and therefore it's quite expensive, and the benefits are really not good. And therefore we are having a demand that says we need to restructure and therefore be able to administrate that particular government employee medical scheme. So there are quite a number of them, including the number of leaves, in particular the leaves that would cover employees due to the Disaster Management Act during any other crisis, because we believe that we need to be prepared moving forward, because COVID found us unprepared, and therefore we have learned lessons.
But Mr. Maluleke, I think it's important to also note that Treasury aims to cut some 300 billion rand from the public sector wage bill. Determining the sum to offer workers this year is undoubtedly a mammoth task. Where's the money going to come from?
Well, the issue of the money coming from the fiscals is something that is quite interesting, because the government, when they want to do something, they have money. They've been able to make sure that they are companies have about 200 billion that they can loan from, and they have been able to make money available for municipalities. They gave them 6% last year. They have been able to make available money for SAA and other state enterprises. And those particular state-owned entities clearly are not delivering the services that our people, in particular the public servants, are delivering. And therefore that is where the money should be coming from. And then they must deal with how they manage and control corruption, because that's where the money is. So the money is there, because if you check the Auditor General, every time comes and say 34 billion has been spent and in a wasteful manner. And then you ask yourself, why must we continue to be able wasteful expenditure in this country when we could always complaining about the fact that there is no money?
So just take us into your confidence and give us an idea of how the talks have been so far. What is being negotiated here?
Well, I must indicate that the talks have been very frustrating since the 1st of March, because what the government has been doing has been coming to the table and said to us, look, can you explain how you arrived at 2,500? We explain, and we expect them to come back. They don't come back. We explain, how did you arrive about 12 days of disaster management leave? And we explain to them where it comes from and where we have begun these particular talks and so forth. So it has been frustrating, I must indicate, and it has not been building some kind of confidence that the public needs, and the people who are receiving public service, they need stability, they need certainty, and then they need to be sure that they are going to be receiving these particular services. But the employer has not been capable of being able to manage them correctly. We hope that as they come back after 5 days, they shall have brought new people with vision, and then those people who will be able to be having the capacity, obviously, to be able to engage in a manner that they can, restore some kind of confidence in us, but also dealing with the trust that has been eroded, I must say, because of the non-implementation of the Resolution 1 of 2018. So it has not been the normal, engagement that we used to have, where it is hard bargaining. Of course, there is always going to be hostilities, there's going to be tension there, but in this particular instance, it has been boring.
All right. So unions were also expecting government negotiators to present the unions with an offer. What are the developments there? Has there been any response so far? You say that the negotiations have been boring so far.
Yeah, they've been boring, because you can't be sitting for 4 days and 5 days answering the same question that comes. Or how did you arrive at this demand? You explain. And then they come back the following day, they have forgotten what you said yesterday, because they're not bringing anything black and white. So what has been happening is that they have asked that they must go and now develop their own offer in black and white. That's what we said. Don't come here and then present something that is verbal, because somebody else tomorrow is going to come here and say, so-and-so is not here today, so it's me today. So I'm presenting something. That present what the government wants to present in black and white, because we have been able to reduce our demand in writing. So do the same. So we expect them to do the same as they come back. But we believe that it is time that we appoint a facilitator who will be able to bring the parties together, because if we are going to be asking question of clarity forever, these particular talks are going to collapse very soon. And as they collapse, our people are not going to be receiving the public services that they receive.
With fear of repetition here, I want us to go back to this assertion that you make of the kind of response that you expect from the government. What do you want to see happen here? What's the desired outcome that you want to see?
One is the recognition of the fact that the public servants are frontline workers, and they have been facing this particular virus throughout. When everybody else was working at home, they are at work, doing their work in hospitals, they are doing their work in schools and so forth. So the top officials of government have been having it very nice, because they work at home, they don't face the virus. So I want them to respond to that by making sure that they understand that the cost of living is up. 15% increase of ESCOM is not going to really help our people, because obviously it's going to affect them very badly, like any other person. So we want them to respond to all the demands, including the COLA, which is the cost of living adjustment, and then they present and say to us, not a freezing. No, they can't come and say freeze, because when they say freeze, then the talks are going to collapse immediately, and therefore we'll ballot our members.
And what's next for you as a joint mandating committee? What's your plan of action? It seems technology is failing us there as we struggle to hear Mokoena Maluleka, but we got the gist of his submissions and what they desire to come out of these talks. That was Mokoena Maluleka, the convener for the Joint Mandating Committee.